In the dark, I plant my dreams. Permaculture flows like sweet streams. I'm the daddy with the know-how seed. Creating the world like it's meant to be. Permaculture, P-I-M-P, I'm the king. Wrapping up in everything. Bringing change, making it last.
Welcome to episode 385 of the Permaculture Pimpcast, where PIMP stands for Permaculture is my passion. The only pimpcast on planet Earth where we discuss permaculture, preparedness, practical living, and sometimes prostitutes.
Permaculture, P-I-M-P, with soulful grace. In a P-I-Pimpcast where we find our place.
Good to be here with y'all this evening. Yeah, I know we're an hour early, but that's how we got to roll these days for a whole variety of reasons, which I'll discuss a little bit further on into the podcast, or excuse me, Pimpcast. This episode, as always, brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap from TwoOldCrowsHomestead.com.
Turn that simp into a pimp.
Bam! EMF rocks. 10% off with promo code PERMA. Hey, y'all, I keep them on my hip right next to my whip. And that's what I'm talking about right here. Just had Michelle order a bunch of them for William and Emily out there in Texas so they can keep my grandbaby safe. And also, you know, we sleep with these things. But folks, I'm telling you, that stuff is a cat's meow. Perma will get you 10% off. All right. I want to thank everybody in here in the live audience. Like I said, I apologize that we're starting an hour early. But because of circadian reasons, that's the whole reason we're doing it. There's a reason why we're wearing these blue blockers. I should, honestly, under these studio lights, I should be wearing a hoodie or something. But honestly, I'm sweating like a runaway slave up here right now because I got the, I wouldn't say the heater on, but I basically have the fireplace, which heats the whole house. And I just happen to be upstairs, so I'm getting warm. So anyway, that's why we're starting an hour early. And, you know, if you prefer, we'll go back to later as we get on, you know, as the days get longer.Maybe we can switch that up a little bit. Well, I want to give everybody a hat tip in his house tonight. Tammy Jansen, Gapefield. I don't know how. Agape. Okay. Yeah, I'm wearing these blue light blockers, so it's kind of messing me up. Let's see here. Yeah, there's a number of you out there. Sorry, folks. I can't see all that well on the screen when it comes to these things. Well, anyway, this episode, as always, brought to you by, wait, we already said all that. Okay, sorry. I'm a little bit sideways, man. I messed up my routine. And
dancing like Stevie Wonder at the beginning.
Yeah, bro. And I'm feeling like it right now, trying to look at this screen. So it is what it is. All right. So we're going to jump right into farm news. And we're going to talk about some things later on in the program that save you money if you're out there getting into this space, because record numbers were getting into this space. Not so sure that's the case anymore. In fact, I think a number of them are getting out. Somebody wrote in there, Maha. Yeah, Big B, Maha. Look at my last post, my community post that I put on YouTube, and you'll see what I think about Maha. Anyway, also, if you go to my X account, you'll see the latest thing I put up from Dr. Jack Cruz regarding the stuff they're giving to kids and how it is twice as bad as what it was before, folks. You can't even make this up. It's insane. Son, somebody popped up on the screen there. It's green, but I can't read it.
Bren Z's from GIA. She said, little channel support. Thank you so much, Brenda. Yeah,
thank you so much. We appreciate the support wherever it comes from. Man, sorry about the tongue-tied stuff. Man, they got me all discombobulated. William and I were talking about before we went live. I put out my latest video and I was talking about fifth generation war. And William's last podcast along with me, we talked about it, but we ended up taking it down because there were things in there they would have almost certainly scrubbed this entire channel. If people want to watch that, you're either going to have to listen to the audio format or you're going to have to watch it on Rumble. But I go into greater detail than I did on Sunday. In fact, when I put up that video on Sunday, in fact, every Front Porch Talk, the numbers, the personal metrics, because I can look at those things, are through the roof. But somehow they unsubscribe me. Either they knock out 30 or 50 people every time I put up a Front Porch video when I'm talking about the things that the powers that shouldn't be don't want you to hear, even though the numbers are through the roof. So, yeah, it's crazy. You know, Tammy's asking maybe on Zoom, but you know what, Tammy, we're going to actually probably take your advice on that, but we're probably in the future going to do more. So we're not suppressed because there are so many things that William and I know that we can't talk about here in an open format. We're probably going to do, what do you call that when you got a class and you do it on Zoom, son?
It's the closest thing I can think of is like a Twitter space, but they won't let you over on Twitter. Like those spaces thing was like you host the space and then people can hop onto the space. Now Zoom, I wonder if that's going to be super limited on how many people it can hold at a time. I don't know. So if anybody like has a solution, what we're trying to do, what we were literally just talking about right before this was like doing a podcast light version, like LITE version, on YouTube, and then letting everybody know once people get on, like, hey, all right, now we're going to move this on over to, I guess, what was it, Rumble or something like that.
Yeah.
Now the issue is that it's going to be an editing nightmare for the audio platform for Mom. That's the main issue there, and especially if you're having to like make one live stream, put it on YouTube, and then cut it, and then make another live stream and put it on Rumble and then cut it. So if anybody knows how, like the mechanics of that, how it's done and how it can be done smoothly, please let us know. Email, like you can email me if you want to, and I'll relay the information to my parents. The permaculture consultant at gmail.com. Good evening, gentlemen. We all nitrogen fixers now. Yes, we are.
Yeah. Yeah, son, break that shirt out. I didn't know you had yours on.
Yep.
Yep. Well, you can't really see it so much, but
I'll take this hoodie off.
Yeah. So wait. Hey, Andy, you said it perfectly right there. This is a clear indication. Everybody's thinking that just because we've gotten into this new administration, folks, I'm here to tell you the suppression on X and this platform, everything is twice as bad as it was under the previous administration. Y'all know I was no fan of Biden. Son, let's see that shirt. We all niggas now. That's exactly what it says. And that's the truth. That's the truth. I mean, everybody, look, I'm just going to keep it real out there for everybody. The last thing they want, the reason why they're suppressing us so badly is that they can't have the powers that shouldn't be, can't have a bunch of brown people out here bucking the system, not saying, oh, I miss the left, or I love the right. You can't have that. You got enough, oh man, I can't, you got enough Officer Tatum's out there, them house niggas. And that's exactly what he is.
Come join the field.
And I hope someday I get to say it right to his face. So if anybody has an in to Officer Tatum, I would love to get him on this show. And I'm going to call his folks. I'm about to knock the mothballs off some words I'm not supposed to use. So I'm just going to kind of ease on back a little bit. But I'm telling you right now, if I ever find myself in a room with him, he's going to have a very interesting time with me. Or if I can get him on this podcast, I'll call him exactly what he is. Or better still, I'd love to do it right to his face and dare him to do something about it. You got no shortage of those out there. But when you got people out here saying, oh, the left is every bit as corrupt as the right, what are they going to do? Tatum, what's that say, son?
APAC Shakur.
APAC Shakur. Oh my goodness, that is mic drop as it gets right there. APAC Shakur. Okay, that's what I'm gonna call him from here on out.
Oh man.
I'm sorry for using. No, I'm not sorry, folks. I'm just gonna keep it real. I'm gonna tell you exactly. I think people are sick and tired of influencers out there. Kind of, it sickens me that on this platform I got to sit here and mind what I say. Be careful that I don't do this. Be careful I don't do that. And so, in the future, just kind of keep your ears peeled for things that William and I can talk about, and we can do it. We may have to put it under a paywall to be able to escape all the legalities, whatever the case may be. We've talked about it before. They call it something cast. I don't know what it is, like you do a seminar, but it's in a podcast, not at a podcast, but it's a live stream. I don't know what you call them, but anyway, folks, I'm
not too sure.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, but we may have to do it that way. And then we're going to drop some information on there that we're not allowed to say in here. Anyway, let me get back to something that's going to be really helpful to everybody out there. So today, let's see, day before yesterday, it was 35 degrees out there, and I was out there naked, no socks on, no stitch of clothes on for 2 hours, just there, dealing with it. I'm combining. Remember, in permaculture, we combine things. It's called stacking functions. So I can get my cold thermogenesis at the very same time that I can get my vitamin D. Sounds a little bit crazy, right? But let me explain. Okay, if you get that app I've talked about before, it's called D-Minder. It's going to give you that window. It's a very narrow window this time of year when you're able to get vitamin D outside. Well, when you're wearing all the clothes out there, you're not getting so much. You're not getting a whole lot all at the same time. So what you can do is stack the function of, hey, it's 35 degrees out there. Instead of getting into a cold plunge, I can do something different. I can go out there and get in a cold environment. Now, this is the suckiest way to do it because people can get in a cold plunge, be in there for a couple of minutes, and then everything's cool. And then all of a sudden, after they're done with the cold plunge, they may go out there and go do some grounding and forget all that, man. I'm busy. So I'm, folks, from the time I get up in the morning till the time I go to sleep at night, I'm working. And a lot of you are the very same way. So why not stack that function? When there's vitamin D out there and it's cold, why not do it all at the same time? So I'm out there shivering, literally like a runaway slave. I'm out there shivering 2 hours yesterday, did it 2 hours today. It was a little bit warmer today. It was in the 40s, but I'm getting better at it. And I came in, folks, I ain't gonna lie, man. Good thing nobody's watching, man, because for all the guys out there, you better hope nobody's watching, because it's going to shrink your junk up the size of a cocktail weenie. And I'm telling you what, that'll be the only thing on your body thinking, okay, man, I can escape this a little bit. Let me get inside there. So sorry to get so descriptive, but hey, man, I'm just keeping it real for all of y'all out there looking to do some circadian health. That's exactly what we're going to be doing. A lot of it, that we're bringing in people that are specialists at the Sovereign Health Summit that's going to be going on October 27th and 31st next year. Promo code TPC will get you 5% off, folks. It's already as low as we can make it. So if you want to support us, we also have an online version of it's going to be live streamed. So you want to check that out as well. So here's some other things. I guess everybody went through Thanksgiving like we did, and I acted a fool. Son, your mom will vouch for this. Okay, so there was a pie out there or leftover pie, and there was this pumpkin roll that she makes out of that Cherokee tan. Yeah. That thing was fantastic. I ate all of it. I didn't eat another. I ate all of it yesterday. I ate half a pie, about maybe a quarter of a pie, and all of what was left of that pumpkin roll, because I'm like, it's not going to be here tomorrow. And man, when you don't eat sugar that much, like I don't, and then all of a sudden you go and do something like that, there's consequences, y'all. And then not just digestive. For me, the next day I'm sitting here like battling with, because your gut leads directly to your brain. And the very next day, man, I'm dealing with things that I haven't dealt with in a while. So anyway, I'm back in the straight and narrow, no more sweets, no more ballyhoo, no more crazy dumb stuff going on. Other things going on. Here's another little hack for you folks. I got these, I wish I'd have brought them up here. I use these Air phones. They plug directly into my phone whenever I'm listening to a podcast. I very, 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 very seldom use it. Okay. But when I do, I usually have, if I'm listening to my phone or anything, I treat my phone quite literally as if it's poison. You know why? Because it is. I leave it in airplane mode. If it's ever touching my body, it's in airplane mode. If I'm touching that thing, I am grounded and preferably outside. I know that sounds extreme to a lot of people, but folks, if you knew what I knew, things that I can't talk about right here, and this is why we're going to have to do this thing in a different forum, because if I go through and tell you all I know and what I've discovered as a 30-year journeyman electrician about what they're doing to these phones, you'd be a little bit worried about it too. Anyway, I got another phone that is not connected to the internet, doesn't have Wi-Fi, doesn't have any of those things, but these are the insidious things. I've talked about this before, but I'm going to talk about it again. And I'm going to add a little more context to it. Anyway, I use that drug dealer phone and I plug my headphones in it, and I use these things where it's not directly the earphones go through a tube, and then the tube, it's spun cable, it's twisted, so you're not getting the EMF from the cable itself, okay? And when you stick those regular earphones in your ear, you're creating damage. So you can you can mitigate a lot of that just by using these earphones that I got from Dr. Jack Cruz, or at least it was some way that was roundabout connected to him. Anyway, I started using those. And then at night, when I'm going to bed, remember, folks, I'm learning all day and all night. So I got out of the habit of using Psalms. I would take the book of Psalms and I overlaid it to Solfeggio Tones music. I got out of the habit of doing that. And then I started listening to like podcasts that would help me, whether it was James Corbett or somebody else. Well, I'd fall asleep with those in my ear. And then, folks, you think I'd be less of a dummy after all this time? I'd wake up with a headache every single day. And then something told me, it may have been the Lord nudging at me saying, take them things out of your ears before you go to sleep. And I did. And I was thinking it was less dangerous or not dangerous at all. But there was one time, folks, and I really want you to hear what I'm going to say here. I woke up maybe 2 a.m. It might have been 3. And I'm hearing something playing through my headphones for just a moment, maybe 3, maybe 4 seconds. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't anything that I had on there. I don't know what it was. And it was playing in there and it startled me. I'm like, what on earth? As soon as I said it, then it went back to what I did have on there. And I'm like, hold on, something is not right here. Something is very, very out of whack. So I don't know if it was the enemy. Remember, we wrestle not with flesh and blood, y'all. I don't know what it was. I don't know. I do know that I was very startled and I was very concerned, but like a complete dummy, I went right back to doing it. Well, the last 2 nights I didn't do it. And I slept like $1,000,000, no headache, no nothing. So if you're one of those people that needs music or whatever else falling asleep, don't. This is part of why I'm memorizing the entire book of Psalms. I can put myself to sleep starting with Psalm 1. Or, maybe here's another little tact is when I want to, I can memorize a verse a day as long as I say it to myself when I'm going to sleep. And as long as I do it the first thing when I get up in the morning, I can memorize a verse a day and remember it. But I got to stay on top of those things, folks. I'm just telling you, you've got to keep, just like Johnny Cash said, I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. Well, you got to watch it on your brain as well. And it's these little insidious, diabolical things that they do. Even though I knew this phone is not at all connected, what was that playing in my ear? I don't know. But anyway, I've straightened myself out, and I wanted to make everybody else aware of it out there. For all of you people that are thinking, okay, man, I need to go to sleep thinking about this or that, this. Michelle and I pray every night. It's as important to me as brushing my teeth, more important, in fact. And, you just can't be opening up those doors. For all of you folks out there thinking, okay, this is another little hack. Well, I'm going to tell you that's one hack that I'm never going to do again. It doesn't work. You got anything, son? Sorry to take so much time.
No, you're good. You guys are susceptible to a lot of electronic attacks. I was remembering that were you headed down to Ben and Denise, or not Ben and Denise's house, Danny and Wanda's house, and the GPS started like randomly saying some messed up stuff?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We were on the way to Danny and Wanda's at Deep South Homestead, and all of a sudden, it creeped your mom and me out so bad we didn't know what to think.
And what were you going by at the same time?
What do you mean?
Weren't you driving by the Guidestones at the same time?
No, it was long. It was long after that. We were not far from Danny and Wanda's house, and this thing, it had the hair on the back of our necks. It was in a British voice or whatever your mom had programmed into the thing, and it was talking. And then all of a sudden, this garbly voice comes in and starts talking some language neither one of us recommended or understood. And we were like, whoa, what did we just come across right now? So, folks, I mean, he's the prince of the power of the air, and where are these signals going through? So when you can't open yourself up to these things. I'm telling y'all as a cautionary tale, do not open yourself up. You know what? Pray yourself to sleep. That's what I'm doing. So I just want to make sure everybody has I didn't mean to spend so much time on that, but anyway, let me get back to some other things that we got going on around here. Stockpiled forage. My man Bo, which I got to get on this podcast. We keep missing each other. I had him scheduled. Folks, he's got a Twitter account that is going to knock your socks off, and I can't wait to get him on this program. I know he's listening right now. And folks, I mean, it's like, I mean, when I got to talk to him a little while back, man, it was like talking to myself, man. This guy, even a better version of myself, to be honest with you. Anyway, he is down there knocking it out of the park, and he is blowing it up on Twitter. I can't wait to introduce him to all of you folks out there because I think he's going to blow your mind. But anyway, I thought about Bo because, you know, he's doing what I'm doing right here. You know, I'm out here, got my sheep on this stockpiled forage. That's what they're eating right now. Now they can, you know, I know folks that were feeding hay in the middle of summer.
Oh yeah.
Folks, if you're going to make any money at this, you can't be doing that kind of stuff. You can't be doing it. Plus, I mean, you're spending so much money. If you're having to feed hay in the middle of summer, probably two things are out of whack. One of them is your stocking density is way off. And number two, you're not rotating properly. Anything you want to add to that, son?
I mean, here in Texas, they were pulling in the cows. We had like a small cold snap, and not even freezing temperatures, cold snap. But in October, before we came and visited you guys, people were pulling in their cows to the barn and feeding hay already, just because it was like a very short cold snap. Yeah, people feed hay all year long here in Texas. Especially in Texas, you don't have to, as long as your grazing is it doesn't even have to be squared away, just moving at the very least every single day, and then controlling your stocking density. Just doing those two things can save you a ton of money in hay. But also, like, people are also haying fields that they graze as well.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't, you can do that, because as long as you keep fertility on your property, you can do that, but it requires very, very good management, and definitely not something that like an amateur should be doing. Yeah, I don't know if you saw that or not, Dad, but Bo got in the chat.
Hey, Bo, if you would put your Twitter account on there so I can go ahead and put it up on the screen. I'm telling you what, folks, he'll knock your socks off. I mean, he's doing some fantastic stuff out there, and it's so cool to see somebody else out there doing this at an awesome level where he's going out there, folks. I don't want to tell you what it is, because I really want you to go over there and check out his X channel and see what he's doing. And he's blowing it up in a big way. And of course, they're suppressing the heck out of him. And he's doing great stuff. Son, if he pops up, go ahead and make sure you put it up there, would you? Because I may miss these glasses on.
I got it.
So here's another little hack, y'all, I want to give to you. I'm out there. I got compost. I bought some of that garbage compost that they call compost that ain't compost at one of the highfalutin places in town. And anyway, I told you about how I'm transforming that all around. I was going to make a video on it, but I kind of did that before, so I'm not going to do it. Anyway, there's no reason. If you didn't hit the mark the first time, folks, there's no reason when you do your flip, you can't add more nitrogen to it. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I thought I had enough the first time. It wasn't quite enough. So if you need to add more, go ahead and add it on your next flip and just layer it up in there. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing that. So I wanted to make sure I put that out. And then finally, you know, there's weird stuff going on in all these platforms, folks. When I say weird stuff, I'm talking like every video I put out there, whether it's a front porch talk, I was thinking they might leave me alone on some of those things. Immediately, you mean 30 people, just how do your numbers go through the roof and all of a sudden you have 30 to 50 people drop off? It doesn't happen organically. This stuff is really, really strange, and it's going on. And I'm saying all this for a reason. I'm not boo-hooing. Look, the Lord will lead the right people to us. I ain't worried about it. I really ain't caring one bit. The point is that the powers that shouldn't be, you can see their next move just by looking at the things around you through your powers of observation. You can tell that they're about to pull something, or something's probably going to go down just by what they suppress. You know, I can't remember who it was. I should know. Doggone it, I was made to read his books back in high school. But like you said, you know, you want to find out who owns you, find out who you can't criticize. And you're going to find out right then and there. So anyway.
Especially when there's self-policing involved, or policing among the population.
Exactly. So that's exactly why we leave every tagline on this show: stay alert, stay alive, folks. I'm not saying that to put you on edge. I'm telling you this to keep it real, because they are doing everything they possibly can to suppress this voice, our voices, your voice, and making sure these messages aren't getting heard, but they get to the right people. I'm praying that the Lord gets it in the hands of the right people that can use this information. That video I did on 5G warfare and the program that William and I did, folks, I just gave you the map. That's exactly how they're doing it. That is exactly how they're doing it. I spent a whole lot of time doing research on this, and I really, for your own benefit and the benefit of your family, I hope you go out there and check it out. Anyway, son, sorry to take so much time. What's going on your end?
Oh, you're good. Real quick, housekeeping. Bo posted his Twitter handle, and for those of you guys that are listening, it's Sovereign Tranche or Sovereignty Ranch. Okay, Sovereign, capital T, Ranch. SOVERN, capital T, RANCH. So yeah, you can go find them on Twitter over there. And then also we had a question from Aspen Glow. If we purchase the online ticket for the conference, will the videos be available for viewing at a later date?
I believe so. I know I don't have a definite answer, but I will by the next podcast. But my suspicion is yeah, if you do the live stream, I think as long as you have your code, you're going to be able to get in and check it out. And then we're going to also try to make DVDs out of the whole thing. But folks, I'm not kidding. I ain't getting no younger, and I'm walking up these doggone mountains, and there's a whole lot of people my age. I'm 55 years old. I ain't getting any younger, and I'm trying to turn my biological age is like 50, I think, and I'm trying to turn the clock back even more by doing this stuff. And that's exactly why I want to put this thing on. Is one of the big things right now is, folks, I am not even, I wish I could say, doggone it, I wish I could say it right now, but I know they'd pull this feed if I did, about what they're doing right now with some of the jabs, and especially the ones that they're giving to kids. I'll try to find a clever way of saying it. There is a substance that Dr. Cruz talked about, and also Judy Mikovits. It's called,
what does it do? Does it glow in the dark?
No, it was, there were a bunch of monkeys back in the, I want to say the 40s. And there is a virus, and it's Sierra Victor, the number 40. And they found out that by using this thing, it would turn whatever negative, doggone it, I hate talking like this. Man, it's making me sick.
Well, remember, Dad, we have people in the chat they're filling in the gaps for you.
Okay.
So, like, everybody check out, Dad, don't post it. Don't post it.
Yeah.
Because we'll get in trouble again.
Somebody's talking about those monkeys that are the color of grass, okay? And it's in the chat right now. Anyway, those monkeys were used to find a way to make the polio vaccine a little more effective. Well, it turned out it blew up right in their face. And what it did, it created, that marked the beginning of the big C. And anyway, everybody thought they put it on the shelf. Well, people like Kevin McKiernan and a number of others found out that it was in every single one of those jabs that they put out. What they have recently discovered is that twice that dose is in the child's version of it. Twice that dose. That's exactly why they don't want this information out there, y'all. It makes me so sick. Because honestly, when the history books are written, if they're written, I think what people are going to wind up saying about the United States of Amnesia, that as far as, you can go back and read from Edward Gibbon and a number of others, the contemporaries of ancient Rome, all the incredible, awful things that they did. And it's going to be dwarfed. It already was. If what this country is doing is ever made known, and I'm sorry, y'all, that I'm being so fragmented as I'm speaking, because I'm trying to get this out to you without actually breaking their idiotic rules. And these days, I mean, you can say anything. I mean, you can bring up elements on the periodic table and they will give you a strike. I kid you not. It's happened to us 3 times now. 3 times. So this is getting crazier and crazier. Anyway, son, anything else on your end? I'm sorry to kind of hijack everything.
No, you're good. And Bill Zegley just said all of it right there in the chat. Good job, Bill. Dad, don't post it.
No, I'm not. Because if we post it on the screen, they'll get us for that. But if anybody wants to know, he just put it all right there for everybody to see right there in the chat.
For the audio platform, Dad, I don't know if you guys posted this video, but it's on my Patreon for free. If you look up the Permaculture Consultant, it's that interview that you did with Dr. J, can't even say her name, and last name starts with an M. Talking about she was present for all of this. Like she's aware of all of this, and she breaks down chronologically how all of this happened. It's over on my Patreon. It's a free video. You don't have to pay for anything for it. It's just I knew it would be safe over there. If I even mention her name on this YouTube channel, then it's going to get taken down. But as far as today, so okay, the high happy news. Let's talk about something happy. High today was 38 degrees. My moringa on the south facing side of that brick wall still growing. Still it's got leaves, still green. It like wilted just a little bit. It's kind of sagging a little bit. So I'm going to dig them up here pretty soon. But microclimates work, y'all. And then also today,
well, son, before we move on,
hey, is mom in the chat?
Yeah, Michelle, you can't be posting that.
No, that's fine if she is. No, it's okay if she is. I was just making sure you didn't get hacked.
Oh, okay. I guess she's in the chat. Hey, son, real quick before you move on, though, because it'll be very, very helpful to a number of people out there. Why is that moringa doing so well on that side of the house? Explain that microclimate for them.
So there's a south facing. I have a brick house basically, and the south facing side of the wall in the northern hemisphere is going to soak up heat throughout the day. Even if it's overcast, even if it's cloudy and stuff like that, it's going to soak up heat throughout the day. And at night, it's going to release that heat to the surrounding areas. So if you can plant plants as close to that thermal mass as possible, then they'll be safeguarded from late spring frost. You'll have extended growing seasons. To this point, I mean, it's December 1st today, and I still have moringa growing, which if you're unfamiliar with moringa, it is a very, very tropical and subtropical plant. As soon as it hits 50 degrees, it technically is supposed to stop growing. But it's doing just fine over there on the south facing side of that wall. And then I also have comfrey over there that's blowing up. That's good from like zone 3 to zone 9. You can actually get it from the stuff that I have is directly from my parents over at permapasturesfarm.com. I don't know if you guys have any in stock. Speaking of in stock, Dad, you got to make some bone sauce. People are blowing me up about that bone sauce.
Yeah, I know. I can't. The problem I'm running into right now is the weather conditions. If we got a high fire danger and if the conditions aren't absolutely perfect, y'all, I can't make it. I mean, if we can we're supposedly getting a big rainstorm tonight. I mean, they've been, doing racetracks across the sky, so I'm sure that's going to happen. But yeah, that's what's holding me up right now, folks. It's not because I wouldn't love to make it. The problem I'm running into right now is seriously just weather conditions. But as you were, son.
And then also today, so I started a new course. It's actually from Sean Cannell, that Think Media. I don't know. Yeah, you've checked him out and stuff. And it's a game plan for 2026 over on YouTube. And the point of it was to try to figure out what adjustments YouTube is making, because YouTube makes adjustments all the doggone time. And I'm going to try to get the information in between the walls that they put up, basically. So I started that course today. And then also today was day 1 for 75 hard for me. And I may have picked the crappiest day of the year to start 75 hard. I was out there in the almost sleet shoveling compost and everything. Now, somebody was mentioning earlier that they have a high of 4 degrees, but they're in Saskatchewan, where that makes sense. This is December 1st, and the high was 38 today here in DeKalb, Texas, which I think is like 12 degrees above or below the average for right now. And it's wet and rainy. And who even knows how? Well, I can't even get into that topic. Yeah, there's been funky things going on with the weather lately here in Texas. Either we're 12 to 15 degrees above the average, or we're 12 to 15 degrees below the average. And then tonight it's supposed to get down to, I think, like 26 or something like that. So I haven't dug up that moringa yet, but that will definitely be a test on that moringa over there. And then I think I might film a video on that tomorrow. But that's what's going on here.
Man, you said 38, man. That feels like a heat wave, man, when you've been walking around like a Maasai warrior around here in 35 for 2 hours. Man, I was out there shaking like a doggone leaf. But
well, I got a question about that, actually. So the thermogenesis, does that, like, if you're going outside, because I was thinking about this while I was flipping compost earlier, am I counteracting that, or am I beating the benefits of it by doing something physical like flipping compost with the intent of using it as a workout, like doing it hard?
I don't know. I'll have to get an answer to that. I want to try to get Dr. Alexis Cowan on the show, or maybe even get Logan back on here to talk about that very thing, because I wondered the same thing. I'd be like, man, this would be a whole lot easier if I was moving, if I was doing some work. But my suspicion is that it's probably counteracting the benefit, because you're trying to even, there's a bunch of different ways to do cold thermogenesis, but the way I'm doing it is where at first, if you just do it for a short period of time, your blood's going to go all, keep your core nice and warm. But I'm even trying to lower the core. So there's a bigger picture at work here. So I'm going to have to get an answer for you on that one. And then, oh shoot, I guess the comment had passed. Someone asked if they could be put on a wait list for bone sauce. Oh, that was Nancy. I'll see, Nancy. I'll have to ask Michelle, but I really do. She handles all the electronic stuff out there. And there's so many people wanting it that I just can't keep up with the demand. I mean, when the weather's this bad, and I won't be cutting any corners. I mean, people have tried to make this stuff in the past, and they cut it with animal fat and stuff like, y'all. Look, if y'all cut it, you cut it yourselves. And I ain't cutting it. I'm giving it to you in its full concentration, and it's probably 10 times stronger than the original recipe. So you can cut this stuff, by the way, and I'm not going to do it. I'm giving it to you as potent as it can possibly get. And plus, I got all these deer bones I need to go ahead and use up. So I'll be putting that in there as well. But man, I'm starting to fill up the doggone freezer with deer bones. And now that it's, deer season, rifle season, everybody's going to be out there filling them up. And of course, everybody knows I butcher, so they're wanting to drop them off here. I just ain't got the bandwidth for that. I'll make some bone sauce as soon as I can. And believe me, you guys will be the first to know about it. All right. So, there was one more thing I was going to say regarding moringa. I did have some pretty good success back in Texas for those that are wanting to grow it or do have it. There was this method, I can't remember where I got it from, was where you basically coppice it about a foot all up above the ground and then wrap it up with some bubble wrap. It worked. Yeah. It worked. So it got it through that season, but man, if we're a really, really hard cold, I don't know about all that.
Yeah, keep in mind, in this part of Texas, you're not getting like deep freezes into the ground. I mean, like you're not like whenever in Texas, whenever they're enforcing code and you have to dig like a water line to, like 18 inches deep, it's not so it doesn't freeze. It's so some dummy doesn't come over and hit it. That's the reason why we don't get very, like, the surface at most might freeze the soil, but especially this part of Texas.
Yeah, don't say that too loud. Those people up there dropping these chemicals, they may hear you and then turn that whole thing around, man. Then you'll have woolly mammoths down there with, vegetation still stuck in their teeth. All right, y'all. So Sovereign Health Summit coming up October 27th through the 31st. That's going to be next year. Like I said, we will have a live stream and we will have the in-person. I would love to see everybody there in person. And we've made it about as affordable as you're ever going to see. We're going to have Barbara O'Neill there. We got Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. And then unlike some of the other ones that have, done conferences with Barbara out there, ain't going to be no, look, hey, y'all, if you're into witchcraft and all that garbage, don't even think about coming here.
Repent.
Or you think you're going to be a vendor and then you show up here under the radar and you think I won't send you on the first thing smoking, you got another thing coming, Jack, because that sort of thing, I've been on the receiving end of some of that. Not so sure that the person organizing that didn't allow, I'm quite sure actually that they allowed that to happen. Ain't happening here. If you want to be a vendor there, we got the lowest prices out there as far as to get your foot in the door, but you ain't going to be out there selling look, I don't care what you're into. You ain't bringing it into my house. Okay. So let me just make that very, very clear out there. Any witches out there, you're going to be sent on the first thing smoking too, because everywhere I go these days, well, it was for a while there, but when I'm prayed up from the feet up, that sort of thing doesn't sort of happen. When I put on the full armor, that sort of thing doesn't happen. But yeah, all you witches that were chasing me around because we rescue kids from trafficking and things like that, this ain't no home for you.
On that note, Dad, so something interesting happened today. After I got done at the gym this morning, I was taking a shower and something came to mind of like an event that happened at Midwest Preparedness Festival, actually. And it was while I was busy with something else. And it was the first one that I had gone to after you had that witch event. And I remember reporting to you, I was like, I didn't see any witches there. And like Bobby and Patrick, I think over at Midwest Preparedness Festival, largely took care of the one main issue there. But it came to mind while I was showering, just randomly, that there was a guy there that handed me a notebook and a rock with it. It was while I was talking to somebody else, and he handed me a notebook and a rock, and it was like, and it was one of those things where it's like, hey man, I know you're real busy, but I know you'd like take notes. Here's a notebook. I sell these online, and here's like I want to say he did like, he was calling it like a placeholder in your notebook or something like that, but it was a rock, and that popped up to mind today. Now I went and found that notebook and that rock, and I remembered whenever he handed me that notebook, there was a note written in the beginning of the notebook, and I immediately ripped it out because, all right, dude, this is my notebook. If I open this up and I see that handwriting, I'm just automatically going to assume. I don't really look at all my notebooks are black for the most part. Like, these are my notebooks, and I don't really know which notebook is which until I open up the contents or I know how deep I'm into it, because I got different notebooks for different things. Like this is my 75 hard notebook, and I got a consultation notebook and things like that. But it came to mind today, and I found that notebook and I found that rock. And I don't remember what was written in the notebook, but on the rock, inscribed on the rock over and over and over again, is abracadabra, over and over and over again. So that translates to whatever I speak, I create. That's what that translates to. And I don't know why. I mean, we can all understand why that came to mind. But it was very, very sneaky how he passed that off to me, because it was like I was being bombarded with a bunch of questions, which when I'm at a festival, ask me everything you want to ask. I'm there to answer any questions that you guys might have. Like, I don't care if I'm tired, I'm going to answer you guys' questions. But it was at a moment where I was tired, and I'm talking to like a group of people at my booth, and he just slides right in and is like, hey, I know you're busy. Here's this and this. And then I think I put it off to the side. But yeah, I got a buddy who's waiting to stiff arm some witches at this festival.
Yeah, there ain't gonna be none of that. I mean, it ain't gonna happen. So if you're one of those and you come rolling in here, well, we got an army of prayer warriors that are going to be waiting to greet you. And then we also got a bunch of special operations guys that are going to send you on the first thing smoking. So if you think you're going to roll in here and you're selling charms or whatever else, this ain't the one for you. Look, just going to keep it real. We're not going to be putting up with it, even though there's others out there that have done these things on the sly. They pretend to be, of the faith. And then, you come to find out, these people are not they're not at all what they seem. Anyway, I won't be getting mixed up with any of that stuff. But anyway, that's going to be October 27th through the 31st. It's going to be next year. And folks, get your tickets, because I'm telling you, this thing is going to be a banger. All right, Redemption Shield, 10% off with promo code Perma. Y'all know me. I'm G'd up from the feet up, and that means grounded. Wave Watch, Billy 100 will get you $100 off. And by the way, that code for Sovereign Health Summit is TPC. That'll get you 5% off. And let me just jump into the good, because I spent so much time. Hopefully what we were saying here was of use to you folks. I mean, sometimes I got notes, but I kind of freestyle it. We both do, for the most part, for a lot of times. And if we go in another direction, well, maybe that's the way it was meant to be. All right, so check this one out. Chemical warfare, 168 common pesticides and plastics discovered to decimate vital gut bacteria, opening the door to chronic disease. Well, anyway, they're out here checking these fields, and it's the garbage they're putting out there. But look, here's the way you can mitigate some of that stuff. So I'm giving you a good news story. And the only reason why I'm saying this good news is that one of the best ways, and I was just hearing Dr. Cowan talk about it, eating fermented vegetables and sunlight is one of the best ways, and getting sunlight on your gut, believe me, is one of the best ways to counteract a lot of this junk. So not going to spend a lot of time on that one. Here's another one.
Real quick. One thing that all the doctors agreed on, I mean, one of many things that all the doctors agreed on at that Healing for the Ages conference, was everybody needs to be sweating for a minimum of 30 minutes per day, which is like a natural detox that your body already goes through. And then also, they didn't mention this, but I learned this recently, was another detox protocol for especially microplastics, is that one algae that you can grow in your own house.
Careful what you say.
It's okay.
Because if you talk about any healing modalities, they're going to cut this feed. This is exactly why we need another platform. But yeah. Anyway, here's another one. Mind-altering weapons emerge from the latest advances in neuroscience. Folks, this is big. Remember what I was saying about these phones a little bit ago? And why you ought to keep your distance and why you got to be careful? That's what this article gets into. But check it out. Another antidote. Believe it or not, melanin is a natural defense for EMFs. So the darker you are, or the more melanin you get in your skins, and folks, it doesn't matter where you fall, whether you're Fitzpatrick 1 skin type, which is, red hair, very pale skin, or whether you're, Fitzpatrick 6, where you look like a Kenyan. It doesn't matter where you fall in there. If you can get more melanin, folks, this is exactly why they are blocking out the sun. The more melanin you get, we find out that a lot of these weapons, and what William was just talking as far as detox, it's also one of your best ways to detox. And sweating also. I'm glad you brought that up, son, because that's also another way to remove a lot of H metals. I can't even say that word on here anymore. Folks, this is literally how bad it's gotten. The H metals, if somebody puts it in the chat, I will not object. Anyway, the melanin helps to chelate all this junk out of you. And also, like I said, this mind-altering weapons, these voice-to-skull technologies, all these other things, they are harder to do when you have more melanin in you. And when you are blue light toxic, which most of us are, precisely why I wear these glasses, why William's wearing them. When you are blue light toxic, it makes you more susceptible. That's exactly why under the Obama administration, they mandated that all these light bulbs come out are all LED or compact fluorescent. You know why? Because all they emit is blue light. You don't get full spectrum like you do in an incandescent bulb. That's why they got rid of the incandescent bulb. Folks, ask any person out there. Believe me, I have 30 years in this trade. I know my way around electricity and I know it very well. When it first came out, for the life of me, I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Because if I go to any house and I do an electrical audit, what are the biggest usages, son? What would you say are the biggest usages in most houses?
Anything that changes temperature, anything that changes the temperature of the surrounding area. So your electric ovens, your air conditioning units, your refrigerators, things like that. Anything that has to change the temperature of the surrounding area is going to be your heaviest energy input.
Exactly.
Hey, and real quick, Dad, Tina Steele's asking where we got these glasses. Now, Dad doesn't want to necessarily recommend the brand that he has just because of some of the visuals that come with it. But this is the brand that I have, Midwest Red Light Therapy. Whether or not they ship to Australia, I'm not entirely sure. But as you were saying, Dad.
Yeah, so there's so many awesome ways in which you can get a lot of this junk out of you. But anyway, one of the best defenses, mind-altering weapons, like this article says, they're using them all the way around, folks. This is exactly why they don't want you in the sun. This is exactly why they're blocking out the sun. It's multifaceted. There's a number of reasons, but that's one of the benefits, that the powers that shouldn't be get out of it. Because if you can get more melanin, you're more protected. It makes you harder to control. That's exactly why every single casino you've ever seen or been into in your life, you ever notice there ain't no windows to the outside? They got all blue light in there, and the mob figured this out in the 1940s. And your government is doing the very same thing. So when Obama came out with the blue light, with these LEDs and compact fluorescence, I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And when they went from analog to strictly digital, it was all one giant experiment, folks. It's really that insidious. I know a lot of people don't want to believe this stuff, but I got the goods. And I'll debate anybody on the topic. Because from the top of my head, I guarantee I could fill volumes on this matter. All right, so the last one. A silent crisis, chemical pollution linked to plummeting male fertility and rising C word, okay? So chemical pollutants, and once again, what is the number one antidote? All these articles have something in common. Sunlight, and once again, melanin chelates and removes a lot of the heavy M's out there. That's exactly what it is. So the closer you get to nature, walking around barefoot, bringing in those beneficial electrons, getting sunlight on your skin, even in your nether regions, they don't want you to know about that. So that's what else they're finding out is when a man gets his junk in the sun and a woman gets her breasts out there in the sun, guess what? The big C word in both cases drops precipitously. It is unbelievable how much it drops, even proximally, even when you're not directly hitting those things. But if you can find time, now I ain't saying, hey, go out there on a cigarette break and, just whip stuff out. But, you do what you can. You do what you can. And folks, or on the weekends when you got time to yourself, I mean, do what you can. It's not the intermittent exposure you want. You want to try to get it as often as you can. And that's precisely why I'm like man, I'm just going absolutely crazy on telling everybody as often as I can what they're doing in the skies and what they're doing through these electronics, because they're getting you one way or the other. And sadly, you go to every school out there, they got a 5G tower out there. I mean, it's the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yep.
The most insane thing I've ever heard in my life. And they put them all up during the height of COVID.
And you're not telling me 5G is better, like it gives you better service or anything like that. Anytime my phone switches over to 5G, guaranteed something's freezing. Something ain't going to work right. Like podcasts I was listening to ain't going to work. Anything like that. Thankfully, where I live, we don't have any 5G coverage, but I notice it whenever I go into like a big city or something. As soon as it switches over to 5G, it sucks. It's a horrible cell phone service.
And, the thing about it is they got those kids locked away in a room. The windows are open. Look at the Sarasota school experiment, folks. You have got, when you get a chance, write this down, go to YouTube, look at the Sarasota school experiment. And this was done, I want to say, back in the 70s. In the 70s, that they figured out, all they did was they show you the difference between kids in a classroom and the way they behave when the windows are closed and the way they behave when the windows are open and the lights turned off. It will blow your mind. Go check it out. All right,
Dad, real quick, because we have a lot of questions about this, and I think this one answer will solve a lot of the questions. Can you explain Tina in regards to the sun real quick? Because people are asking about various alternatives.
Yeah. Okay. So Tina is an acronym. Jack Cruz came up with it, and I think he came up with it. It could have been someone else. It means there is no alternative. Now, technically there is. And one of the ones I use, because I get a narrow band of availability to get vitamin D during this time of year. So they make a product out there. I'm trying to reach out to these folks, but they're not really good at reaching back at me. You can get a reptile light. That's one way to do it, but you don't know how to calculate how much D you're getting, but you can use it. That's exactly what they do at zoos. You can use a reptile light, or they make a Sperti, SPERTI, sun lamp. Now those are expensive. I want to say about $600. And you can stand in front of those, and the recommendations they give are not sufficient, at least not for me, but I understand the legalities involved. They can't have somebody getting, sunburned or whatever. Those are a couple of ways to get around it. But yeah, somebody's asking, would red light therapy be the same? Well, you're not getting UV through red light. That's the one downside of it. You're not getting UV spectrum, and that's where you're not making any vitamin D through a red light lamp. At least none of the ones I'm aware of. But you are getting all the other beneficial waves, but you're not getting red light. So here's what I do. When it's like it was, when I know that they're blocking out the sun and it's not going to do me any good to go out there, I'll put the Sperti lamp facing on one side while I stand in front of the red light panel that I got from myredlight.com. I want to say, I don't even know what the discount code is anymore. I'm not even sure if it's working anymore. But anyway, I use Jonathan Otto's stuff because I know that it's, it is what he says it is. There's a lot of ripoffs out there, and you want to be careful. So let me reach out to Jonathan before you go buy him. Want to see if I can't get y'all a discount code. Anyway, I use the red light on one side while I'm using the Sperti on the other. And then I have a bucket where I stick the light on there, and it gets another part of my body, because the Sperti lamp is only maybe 1.5 feet tall. So I move all around and let it get different parts of my body. So depending on the day, that's a really good solution there. Let me reach out to them and see if I can't get y'all a discount code on those as well. Or like I said, you can get a reptile bulb, but I don't know how you calculate how much D you're getting out of it. That's one of the hacks I do. So yeah, there is no alternative, but you got to find alternatives, because you got no choice. You honestly have no choice these days because they are blocking out the sun. So those are the ones. Those are the ways I'm going about it. So yeah, I use Spurdy on one side, red light on the other, and then flip around and then elevate it and lower it. And that's where,
Rotisserie.
yeah, that's kind of how it's going. Or, I'll stand in front of it and do my memorization, my Bible study, and all that kind of good stuff. All right, with that said, y'all, we're going to go to my man, Eric Sider.
Hey, Eric Sider here with your Pimpcast tip of the day. Today's tip, it's not the action, but the reaction. A big part of permaculture is pattern recognition. It is key to designing sustainable systems, working with the natural energy flows instead of fighting against them. Once you become a pattern thinker, you see patterns everywhere. Patterns are often more obvious when you look at the reaction to an event rather than the event itself. The event or action is often hard to make sense of, particularly when you realize any official story is complete nonsense. But if you look at the reaction to the event or what the event leads to, especially any legislation pushed through, the pattern starts to reveal itself. There is an obvious pattern of control being enacted across the world if you care to pay attention. You can start connecting the dots between seemingly unrelated events by looking at what those events lead to. Generally, fear, division, loss of freedom, consolidation of resources, basically total control over the population. I think we will need to create two lives as we transition to a new system. The digital ID of compliance and the off-grid ID. And the only way the off-grid ID works is with a local system of resilience built on local community of trust, a community designed with abundance for all. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Eric Sider if you're in need of permaculture t-shirts, the official pimp gear of the Pimpcast, or remote permaculture consultation and design. Head over to ericsider.com. And for more information on my permaculture community group and how we can all create that off-grid ID potential, head over to permaculturefairoaks.org.
That's my dog right there. Man, he said it all. And I wonder if Eric was alluding to, he was the first one to maybe aware of it because around Thanksgiving, I was kind of sequestering myself. And this is another little experiment I'm doing, and it seems to be paying off quite well. Because I'm being very, very careful about what I titrate. Because I do this show, I got to stay aware of the things going on. So Eric made me aware of that shooting that happened in D.C. And I'm like, okay, where's this leading? And Eric thought the very same thing. Yeah, just when you see a bunch of coincidences line up and like he said, all of a sudden you get legislation out of it. Like take, for example, 9/11. And whoa, lo and behold, what do they already have ready to go? Patriot Act. Already signed, sealed, delivered, ready to rock and roll. So it's called the Hegelian dialectic. It's problem, reaction, solution. And in a nutshell, they create a problem. The reaction almost 9 times out of 10 is one or both. It's either fear and anger. It's usually both. And then they come rolling in with the solution. Works every single time. And they don't even bother changing it because why change it? Some other folks were telling me Spurdy had like $200 off.
Yeah. Hey, Alabama was saying Spurdy's on sale for $200 off, which I guess, what is today, Monday? I guess it's Cyber Monday. So if you're looking to get a red light lamp, they're probably gonna. That's how I bought that class from Sean Cannell or Cannell, because it was like 95% off today because it's Cyber Monday. So, they probably have some pretty good deals right now.
Yeah, that never even occurred to me, but I'll try to reach out to them and see if I can get y'all a discount code. And for the ones buying red light panels, go to myredlight.com. If you put in, I don't know, Billy, I don't know what it is. I'll be honest with you folks. If I still have a code there, I'm pretty sure I do. I just don't know what it is. I know at least Jonathan Otto is given exactly what he says he is. There's a whole lot of knockoffs out there, but just keep in mind, folks, the red light is not giving you the vitamin D you need. You need either a reptile lamp or you got to have a Spurdy or something like that, something that's putting out UV lamps, okay? You're going to have something like that. All right, so, wow. Man, we're getting a little bit long in the tooth. I got half of mine to we'll drive on. All right, y'all. My Chronic Silver, 10% off with promo code PERMA. In fact, my man's going to be on with, he's going to be on a Mountain Readiness on YouTube tonight and probably dropping some really awesome stuff over there. 10% off with promo code PERMA. That's the stuff we use here. And go check them out, folks. It's when you look at how stable it is, much better than colloidal and some of the others and the nano and stuff out there. This Mycronic stuff is the cat's meow. So I'll make sure I use it whenever, especially when I go to Asheville and I'm around a bunch of these germy SOBs. Anyway, here we go. I want to get into some of the things, the 10 things that are going to save you money. So we'll just go back and forth. I didn't tell William what mine were. He didn't tell me what his were.
I wrote extra just in case they overlap.
Yeah, I did the same thing too. I'll go ahead and kick it off and say, look, as far as saving money with this in a big way, folks, right out of the gates, the power of observation. This is where the problem is the solution right from the beginning. This is where it starts. Before you spend money on animals, fencing, and all these other things, folks, you have got to take time to observe. If you don't do that, you're already setting yourself up for failure. Find out where the rain's falling. Find out where the wind, the shade, the frost pockets, wildlife paths. That's important. And water patterns. I mean, I think I mentioned that a moment ago, but you don't want to go out and rush and buy infrastructure. So right off the bat, that's going to be my number one way in which you save money. Over to you, son.
My number one way, immediately, and this applies to every homestead, every garden, every farm, everywhere on earth, is to immediately start building soil. Compost everything. If you focus on building soil, which can be done for free with just a little bit of sweat equity and scrap materials, you can make a compost pile, and then you can immediately eliminate a ton of outside inputs that you no longer have to worry about. Vet bills you no longer have to worry about. Extra supplements you no longer have to worry about, because you're focusing on the soil biology and you're making sure everything that needs to be in place is in place and an on-demand system. Also saves you time, effort, and money in the long run, because that's less time, effort, and money you have to put into that particular system. You can once you fix it, you can remove yourself from the fertility system, and then you can focus on different aspects of your farm or whatever else you want to pursue.
And what he said there is going to tie right into what I'm about to say is design everything around water. It should be maybe not everything, but a large component. And like William was saying, if you're building soil right off the bat, remember for every 1%, you're storing into the soil the equivalent of an Olympic-sized swimming pool per acre. So the two can go hand in hand. But if water management isn't first, I'm telling you what, your budget is going to hurt. Man, maybe that should be on a shirt. You can do things depending on where you are, depending on your, climate, depending on a number of things. You might want to consider swales. You might want to think about ponds or micro ponds. Berms instead of pumps, and making sure you put your water as high in the landscape as you possibly can if you're going to use it for any kind of irrigation. So remember, whenever you get energy that hits your place, you can capture it, at least for a little while. You can store it and you can amplify it. I mean, you can do a whole bunch of things out there. So it's free irrigation, longer growing season in so many different ways, and no electric bill for pumping water. So you're saving money. And then you're not there's another big preparedness component here. You're not reliant on the powers that shouldn't be to get you that water if you already have it there.
And just to add to what Dad was just saying, use water multiple times, especially if you're paying for it. So you can water with gray water. You can 100% water with gray water. You can flush your toilet with gray water. If you can reuse your water that you're paying for multiple times, then you're saving money in the long run that way as well. Not only is it a good, permaculture practice to reuse water as many times as possible, but also good on the budget, especially if you're paying for it or paying for the energy to pull it out of the ground or whatever it may be. But my next point was perennial production. You know how much time, effort, money is spent in annual production every single year? Or I could plant an apple tree, wait 4 years, and then that, fourth and fifth year, it's going to produce enough to pay for the tree. That sixth year, it's going to it's going to produce more than most people's garden beds as far as calories are concerned. And look at the initial calorie input of that particular system, or the monetary input of that initial system. Very, very low, especially in the long run, especially once you get your first harvest, then you're good to go.
My number 3 is stack functions everywhere. Not only is this, it's not just dollars and cents, folks. It comes down to your sanity. When you have a poorly organized farm, you're not going to be farming very long. There are record numbers. I forget what the stat that Joel Salatin put out, that the number of people that get into this and then wind up getting right back out, it may have been 5 years. I don't recall what it was, but it was a very short time. And a lot of this has to do with, I think, zoning. It's one of the big things that everybody messes up. You don't have to, not everybody, but most people do. And then also stacking those functions. For example, our sheep not only mow, they fertilize. Obviously, they're taking grass and converting it into protein and DHA and fat and all the things I want anyway. Depending on the kind of sheep, maybe they even provide wool. And then, of course, they're building soil, going right back to what William said, and they're feeding our biology down in the soil. So I'm not a grass farmer. I'm a microbe farmer when you get down to brass tacks. And then think about other things like your trees. Don't look at them in isolation. They're providing shade for the very sheep and the other, or cows or whatever else you got out there. Those trees provide food. Clearly, William was just talking about it with perennial systems. They could be very, very helpful in terms of windbreaks, habitat for pollinators, and a number of other things. And then, of course, it's also a really good way to anchor your soil past the A horizon, which is your top layer. It's a good way of anchoring things in there. And then let's not forget about the medicine that you're going to get out there as well.
The next one I have is dual purpose livestock, especially if you're purchasing feed for these animals. So instead of running 2 separate systems with your chickens, where you have a laying flock and a meat flock, and they're 2 different varieties or anything like that, that's 2 separate systems that you have to spend time, money, and energy into taking care of. Or you could combine that system, have your layers be dual purpose birds, so big bodied layering birds, especially if you're not selling the meat to anybody, it's just for your own production. Have them in the chicken tractor on steroids, which ties into design a little bit. And then you can just eat the offspring. You can let a couple hens go broody, or you can incubate a couple of the hens yourself and then raise them along. Once they get big enough, make sure you have separate waterers and feeders for those chickens, but you can raise them along in the same system if you wanted to, especially if you have a hen that went broody. Try to minimize the amount of hands-on management you have to do with that particular system. But dual purpose animals also, when it comes to cows, like a Dextra, for example, they have fantastic meat production and they have fantastic milk production. Try to think of how many of these dual purpose animals, or what animal you can have that fits as many roles as possible before buying a new animal, because that's going to equal a new system, depending on how your setup is.
Yeah, just something came up in the chat right there. Just caught my eye. Double A says, speaking of food, I have a pineapple growing right now in Indiana. My mom, the mom is fruiting, and she gave 4 other plants. You know what? I would eat that pineapple if I were in Indiana, but based on what I'm learning about circadian health, I wouldn't eat that pineapple that came from Hawaii. I'm not eating anything these days that doesn't grow my zip code, or at least, Pareto principle, 80-20. Okay. But anyway, I think that's pretty cool. If you can grow some of these things in your local area, I think they're pretty cool to eat. All right. So I can't believe we didn't compare notes here, son, because everything I'm saying kind of ties on to what you're saying and vice versa. Number 4 for me is turn waste into inputs. That is huge in a big way, especially with omnivores. Whether it's, this is why I was talking about Bo a minute ago, because that is precisely what he's doing. And folks, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag on how he's doing it. He's doing it in a different way than I am, but it's still awesome and effective in a very, very big way. I mean, permaculture treats waste as a resource. And so we need to look at it that way. What everybody calls waste, for example, places where I get the beans or the rice. It was William that figured out that, we can get the chickens out on pasture much sooner when we feed them rice that came out of a Mexican restaurant, because it looks like something that they're hardwired to want to eat, which is larvae, which is maggots. Chickens will eat that in a minute. We were getting them out there in 2 weeks just by knowing that one little thing. So now I can take that rice component that comes from a place I trust, and I'm using that waste component that they called waste. Instead of it going to a dumpster, I'm saving that restaurant dumpster costs, because now instead of having to have it dumped twice a week, now they only got to have it dumped once a week, because I'm taking stuff that they would ordinarily throw away that would go into a landfill. Leaves, cardboard, wood chips, bones, manures. I mean, pallets. I mean, you name it. All of these things can be turned right back into your system. And as we were talking before, if I'm going to use anybody else, like if I'm using hay, which I do from time to time, when I use hay, it's not hay that I'm getting out of here. I'm not taking my fertility away and giving it to somebody else. If somebody else wants to sell their hay, if it's reliable and not sprayed, yeah, I'll use that hay in a minute. No doubt about it. So no fertilizer bags, no soil amendments, no wood, none of this garbage coming from stores if we can possibly help it. But anyway, turn those wastes, just like the chicken tractor on steroids. That whole system, just like William was talking about, that whole system is turning waste into the best compost you can possibly find.
So the next one I have is on the lines of what Eric just got done saying, but build local barter communities. So when I was at Crunchy Mama Farms a couple of weeks ago during their tribe weekend, Tag was there from Life Done Free with Tag and B. He was out there and he was talking about like one of the benefits of having community. And there was this one guy within the community that was building a house. And in the middle of building that house, he had some sort of a heart attack or stroke or something like that. And he was in the hospital for quite some time. What he didn't know is that local barter community found out about it, or that local community found out about it and completely finished every part of his house while he was in the hospital. So once he got back from the hospital, he came to a completely finished house. Now, that's obviously an extreme circumstance, but if you build a barter community where, it's going to save you money. It's going to save you time, effort, and money. And you can keep that money circulating within. If you do exchange money, you can keep that money circulating within that community a lot longer than what we typically do already. What is it like? The Muslims keep the money is spent 7 times within the Muslim communities, especially in like New York and stuff like that, before it ever leaves the community.
Right.
What happens if we do that with like the farming communities? What happens when we do that with local barter communities? We have much more resilient communities, even when we're using a fiat currency.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, but it's gonna, sadly, I think it's gonna take the crucible of really hard times for us to wake up to some of these things. But don't worry, judging by what all the metrics out there, it looks like it's on its way. So my last one is going to be the right livestock for the right circumstances and also the right scale. We covered this kinda, but don't buy the status animal or the one that's popular out there. Folks, please don't do that. Buy the one that makes sense for your area. I mean, maybe sheep instead of, like where I live. It doesn't make sense to have cattle out here. There's a lot of people that do in these mountains, and they are destroying their property. Having cattle where I am right here makes no sense. Sheep, on the other hand, makes perfect sense. They can not only navigate the terrain, but they're not destroying it in the process. You would have to move those animals so often to not to scar the landscape. It's just mind-boggling. So maybe, chickens instead of hogs at first, or maybe hogs instead of chickens, depending on the circumstance. Compost making animals, not just meat machines out there. But one of the big things for people that are new to this space, they get designer animals. I don't understand why you would want to do that if you're in it to feed yourself and your family and to possibly make money on the deal. Animals that are not suited for that environment, for example, up here, the only thing that will eat this Chinese silvergrass is a water buffalo. Ain't a hillbilly up in these mountains raising no water buffalo, so it doesn't make any sense. Now, granted, I wouldn't mind putting one on a cracker, but I think you see the point. It just makes no sense in this environment. So I'm not going to have any water buffaloes here. But it would be cool to be able to get a gang of them up here eating some of this Chinese silvergrass. Back to you, son.
So my last one is have someone else look at your doggone property. Quit going in there with only just your idea. And it could be anybody you trust, anybody who's going to come approach the property with a logical, efficient perspective. Not somebody who, okay, I'll put it to you this way. If they got a brand new lifted truck with pretty rims on it, they don't need to look at your property, because they're going to be designing a bunch of crap that doesn't actually produce anything or anything like that. I'm not talking about anybody in particular. I'm talking about like locals here, because if I ask them what to do with this property, they're going to say some gay hunting cabin or deer camp. Yeah, that's what they're going to say. But have somebody else look at your property. Have somebody who's efficient, who's going to look at it logically, look at your property, so that way you can get another set of ideas, especially if they work in the trades somehow. Like anybody you can find that works in the trades, and you ask them about a particular, like you tell them what your plan is, and then ask them, hey, is that efficient? Do you think of anything? Can you think of anything better? That's only going to save you money, because you wouldn't believe how many consultations I go to. This is typically the pattern of what, like when somebody reaches out to me for a consultation, they buy a piece of property, they get a bunch of animals, they do a bunch of random infrastructure, thinking that they know what they want on the particular piece of property, and then they realize, like, man, I'm running all over this place. It's not efficient. I'm not producing as much as I thought it would. I better have somebody else come out and look at this. Have somebody come out and look at your property before you get started on all those things. Not saying it's too late if you've already gotten started with those things, but before you do get started, have somebody look at your property. And it could be anybody you trust that's efficient, that's logical, or even a tradesman, unless they're a painter.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You don't want no advice from any painters out there when it comes to your farm. No, I'm just kidding there. But not really. But Bill Zegley points out a good point here, and a lot of people don't look at it this way. Like he said, 4 sheep can take the place of 1 beef and have less compaction. That's precisely the point. And then you're not waiting for, a grass-raised beef. You're going to look for 28 months. That's a long time to be waiting to, put something in the freezer. Meanwhile, if you had a breeding pair, or like you said, those 4 sheep, good night, man. Half of them, you get the right breeds, man, you're going to get twins and triplets nearly every time, and you can breed them at least once a year. If you're just taking out the stock that ain't no good, or the ones that you don't want to put in the freezer at all, which is precisely what I'm going to be doing next week, I mean, good night, man. You'll have meat coming out of your ears. That's why I had to give away a couple of sheep to Jason down there at Sow the Land, because I got all I can possibly eat right now. And of course, your mom thinks they're too cute and she won't eat them, but I'm about to, because sheep is one of those animals where you can get a lot. It's it's probably the only animal where you can get DHA out of the meat, which you can only normally get from seafood. So having those guys is really awesome. Plus, the meat cost is way more expensive than beef. And for me, it tastes way better. And you could honestly be putting some of them in the freezer in 6 months. So a lot of folks are missing the boat on that. And I think, now, if you get those wool sheep, yeah, you're going to have that lanolin flavor in there. It's going to have to be a little bit gamey. But these hair sheep, parasite resistant, they're smaller. But I would rather have a small animal that's still alive than one I got to put a whole bunch of inputs in that's costing me money. No thanks. So, yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Bill. Anything else to add, son?
Well, I do want to answer this one question from Chris F. EFF 8740. Anyone know if tree hay can be the majority of a sheep or goat diet in the winter? Absolutely. The Romans and the English, and I mean the Europeans, were doing it for a very, very long time. In fact, don't they still have like coppiced fodder trees from the Roman Empire and everything?
Yeah, all over England, and not just England, but in France, which was Gaul. They called it Gaul at the time, and Germania, which is Germany. So that's what they would have called them during the Roman Empire. But yeah, they got trees to this day that were coppiced, and they're still alive.
Yeah. They
were coppiced all the way back when Julius Caesar was running around, for crying out loud, when he was in there conquering Gaul. Back, in fact, when did he strangle Vercingetorix? Vercingetorix was the leader of all the Gauls, basically. Anyway, when he strangled him during the triumph that Caesar did, they got trees that were around long before then that are still being coppiced to this day. So yes, tree hay is a wonderful strategy. And if you can make that work, I mean, more power to you. Now, you need a fair bit, but we've done it here. And we do. In fact, comfrey is one of those things that we treat like tree hay as well, is where we'll take a bunch of leaves of comfrey, bundle them together, let them dry out, and then you can feed that also as a mineral supplement for your animals throughout the winter. Folks, we better be getting into all these natural ways of doing things, because I got a feeling if you are a person that is reliant on so many of these outside processes, I mean, when silver's up to $57 per ounce and rising, your dollar is shrinking. I'm not saying this to scare anybody, folks. I'm just saying there's a reason why we do shows like this, to make everybody aware that this world is on shaky ground. But the powers that shouldn't be, yeah, they got their bunkers. You know, everybody in this administration, you know, they got their places to go if things go awry. They got, you know, all the things they need, but they're not telling you and me about it. They're not telling any of us about it. So you got to be your own, you and your community have to be doing what's in your best interest. All right, y'all. So I want to thank everybody in the chat. And folks, like I said, the show is going to have to be at 5:30 for circadian reasons, for a whole variety of reasons. And if we switch to another platform or find a way to do this podcast over there, we might have to do that because, as you can tell, man, I'm tap dancing over all these things that I know I can't say on here because that's how bad YouTube has become in terms of messages. And it's becoming a real pain in the butt to try to get the message out to you guys. So we may have to do we'll figure something out. We'll work something out. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for checking us out. I want to thank everybody that contribute, all of you in this chat and everybody out there contribute in a massive way. Till next time, stay alert.
Stay alive.
Rivers that run deep, wisdom from soul, permaculture dream. Let the ideas unfold. I'm moving with the truth. Feeling nature's food. Who's got the answer? All we need to do. Listen to the earth, they got us through. Let's see the change. Watch the world spin. From the smallest sprout to harmony begin. In the cycle of life, where the magic's alive. Tune it to the beat.